Have you ever wondered what it's like to have a secret hideout that's, well, not exactly Disneyland? Or perhaps you've pondered the age-old question, can walls double as room service? Stick around, because today we're about to peel back the layers of this bizarre story like an onion or an ogre, whatever you prefer. What would give you the strength and will to survive being kidnapped and trapped underground as a child? For 10-year-old Katie Beers, living through a real-life nightmare required digging deep to find an indomitable spirit within herself. Kidnapped by a family friend she once trusted, Katie was held captive in a hidden underground dungeon for over 2 weeks. Deprived of light, food, and any human comfort, she endured solitary confinement as well as repeated sexual abuse. Yet Katie emerged not as a victim, but as a survivor who outsmarted her captor and never lost her determination to live. Her incredible story of courage in the face of unspeakable cruelty serves as an inspiration to all. Katie Beers was born in 1982 in Mastic Beach, New York, under difficult circumstances. Her mother, Marilyn, was an unstable alcoholic, unable to care for her child. By age 3, Katie was legally placed in the custody of her godmother, Linda Inghillery, and Linda's husband, Sal. However, Linda treated young Katie like a slave. She was denied schooling, friendships, playtime, and motherly affection. Instead, Linda forced Katie into back-breaking household labor like cleaning, cooking, and laundry. This Cinderella-like existence warped Katie's childhood. Even more damaging was the sexual abuse Katie endured from age 2 to 9 at the hands of her uncle Sal. When Katie bravely told her godmother of the violations, Linda accused Katie of lying and punished her harshly. With no protection or support, Katie lived in constant fear within the home. Her only happiness came from occasional outings with a family friend named John Esposito, who she affectionately called Big John. To Katie, John provided the caring, paternal relationship she yearned for. But sinister secrets lay beneath John's friendly exterior. December 28, 1992 began much like any other for Katie. As a special treat just before her 10th birthday, John Esposito took her to Spaceplex, a local recreation center. But their joyful day abruptly ended with a terrifying phone call from Katie to her godmother Linda. On the message, Katie frantically claimed that a knife-wielding man was chasing her before the call cut off. Linda immediately contacted the police. However, when detectives searched Spaceplex, they could find no trace of Katie or signs of an abduction. Things became even more perplexing when the FBI analyzed the call Katie made. Their results showed the call had been a pre-recorded tape, not a live conversation. Katie had never been at Spaceplex that day. She had already been kidnapped and hidden away by the time the tape was played for Linda. Someone had orchestrated an elaborate ruse to make it seem like Katie was abducted from Spaceplex, when in fact she was likely in grave danger. While police desperately searched outside, Katie was living a nightmare no child should endure. After being kidnapped, she had been brought to her abductor's home. Once inside, he forced Katie to crawl through a hidden tunnel that led to a soundproof, underground room he had built in advance just for her. The tiny dungeon was equipped only with a dirty mattress, a makeshift coffin-like box, and chains bolted to walls. "This is your home now," her captor decreed. Katie soon discovered that the man behind her living entombment was none other than John Esposito, Big John himself. In her underground prison, Katie was subjected to unfathomable cruelty. For 17 days, she was given barely any food or water. Deprived of sunlight and human contact, Katie was confined in darkness and silence. Most horrific of all, Esposito repeatedly assaulted her. To survive minute to minute, Katie became hypervigilant. She stole a key to unlock her chains when Esposito wasn't around, allowing some freedom of movement. And when Esposito confined her in the box, she kicked at the door until the lock broke, giving her a way to escape if she could ever get out of the dungeon itself. But despite her efforts, with no escape route, Katie remained utterly trapped at Esposito's mercy. Above ground, police were growing convinced that Katie was likely dead by her abductor's hands, but Katie's sharp mind and defiant spirit ensured she was very much alive. She watched TV news coverage of her disappearance, seeing the pressure and scrutiny Esposito faced as the prime suspect. Katie also saw her mother Marilyn's emotional pleas to find her, fueling her will to survive. Knowing Esposito was unraveling from stress, Katie purposely complained of feeling ill to heighten his anxiety. She bombarded him with questions about her future, how she would go to school, have a career, get married. This forced Esposito to acknowledge the long-term impossibilities of keeping his young captive indefinitely. Desperate for a solution, Esposito instructed Katie to pretend to be dead so he could photograph her and convince police she was murdered. But Katie astutely denied his demands. things, recognizing she would be killed for real. Out of options, Esposito finally confessed she's behind the wall to his attorney, who led the police to her dungeon prison. Against all odds, Katie had outlasted and outsmarted her captor through sheer, gutsy perseverance and quick thinking. Though subjected to conditions to destroy her mind and body, Katie remained resolute. As lead investigator Dominic Varone reflected, this little girl, at 10 years old, changed a kidnapper's mind. Her relentless will to see her family and walk in the sunlight again gave her the daily courage to face unimaginable depravity. Katie simply refused to be broken. After her rescue, Esposito pled guilty to Katie's kidnapping and is serving 15 years to life in prison. Detectives also pursued justice for years of abuse against Katie by her godmother and uncle. Thankfully, Katie thrived after being placed in a loving foster home, the caring environment she always deserved. Though haunted by memories of trauma, Katie was determined not to be defined by her past. She flourished into an accomplished adult, an author and child advocate helping others. Katie's story embodies the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Though subjected to a cruelty no child should endure, Katie found an inner strength to rebel against her captor and emerge even stronger. She is living proof that even in the darkest times, there are heroes among us. Her unrelenting courage and resolve, despite the trauma she suffered, make Katie Beers an unforgettable symbol of hope. Where do you think Katie found the strength and determination to survive inside the dungeon, despite the horrific abuse? Katie's astonishing fortitude stemmed from several sources. She likely drew upon sheer survival instincts rooted in her psyche from years of childhood neglect and trauma. Katie also seemed to gain strength by holding on to loving memories, thoughts of her distraught mother begging for her return on TV, and kind words from investigators vowing not to give up. Her natural intelligence and rational thinking skills were key assets as well. Katie stayed strategic, trying to plant doubts and push back against her captor's actions mentally. She nourished her inner resilience by believing she was valuable and her life had meaning. Above all, Katie refused to be defined as a victim or relinquish control. She fought back using any means necessary. Her unbreakable spirit is a testament to the power we all have within us to prevail even in life's darkest moments. If you were in Katie's position, do you think you would have the courage to confront your captor and try to negotiate your release? Trapped in a dungeon with no clear means of escape, Katie showed remarkable bravery in directly engaging with Esposito, her abductor. Though just a child, she persistently questioned him about the logic of keeping her confined long term. Katie also rebuffed his disturbing suggestions that they could have a future life together. While most children would be paralyzed by fear, Katie found the strength to challenge Esposito verbally and plant doubts in his mind. Katie found power in her voice, even when trapped in powerless circumstances. Do you think Katie's traumatic childhood in some ways prepared her to cope with being kidnapped? Having endured years of neglect, exploitation, and sexual abuse, Katie already knew trauma and survival at a very young age. As awful as it sounds, she was conditioned to adapt to extremely difficult circumstances from the time she was a toddler. Katie had to develop coping mechanisms and inner strength just to endure daily life. So when Esposito kidnapped her, as terrifying as it was, in some ways Katie had the tools to mentally confront her new horrific reality. Her innate resilience enabled her to withstand and overcome the dungeon ordeal. Katie's childhood is a tragedy, but it forged her into the brave survivor she needed to be. Why do you think Katie refused to be defined by her traumatic past later in life? Despite enduring events that would psychologically cripple most people, Katie was determined not to be permanently broken. She recognized that she could move forward, heal, and create new life experiences. Though shaped by the hard lessons of her youth, Katie actively chose happiness, accomplishment, and advocating for others. She wanted to be known for much more than the traumas she was forced to overcome. Katie likely refused victimhood because she knew her own strength and value. Her inspiring mindset teaches an important lesson. We cannot control hardship done to us, but we can control whether we let it control us. Katie is proof that light shines brightest in those who refuse to let darkness dim their spirit. Well, wasn't that a roller coaster of human oddities and bizarre twists? If you've made it through the labyrinth of The Girl in the Wall with me, congratulations. You're officially part of the weird and wonderful club. Before you go questioning your life choices, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more crazy stuff like this.